Attention, go! The simple call from Matthew Pinsent, a mighty pull on the oars, a roar from the crowd, and the 159th boat race underway. They come storming out, around 45 strokes a minute, whipped along by those coxies.
And it looked like Cambridge got the better start. They moved off very, very quickly, and they had a couple of feet there just in the first 10 or 15 strokes. But Oxford pulled back very quickly, and they're now finding a rhythm, looking for a rhythm as they straighten up along this first quarter of a mile of the course down to the Fulham Bend.
That's it! Suspend and press. Ready, lengthen, go! Now! River! That's river!
Already you can see that Oxford have made a brighter start. The yapping cries of the coxies are driving them on, but that's a very, very good start from Oxford.
Sitting in the stroke seat, they've got Malcolm Howard. There's Malcolm Howard, Canadian Olympian, gold medalist and silver medalist in the Olympic 8 for Canada. And he's leading this crew. Not done much stroking, Andrew. He hasn't done a lot of stroking in boats in the past. So this is a big challenge for him to set the rhythm for this Oxford crew.
And the flotilla following on behind, churning up the grey waters of the Thames, but already you can see the Oxford Cox Oscar Zorilla is drawing level with the 7 seats of Cambridge. In fact, perhaps more than that. The bend will start to play out in favour of Cambridge, just that quarter of a length, third of a length perhaps as they come up to Craven Cottage, but it's a very, very strong start from Oxford.
Very strong start. They've got half a length now. The corner that they're coming up to in about half a minute's time, the Fulham corner, that's going to take about a third of a length in favour of Cambridge.
Stroke side. Hold them tight. That's it, boys. Loose here. Come back on our bend.
Well, Oxford have moved a little bit across there. They needn't take that corner so soon. That could create a clash. Bit of work for the umpire.
Drawing close now. This is where the Cox will try and just grab every little advantage he can. He's pulling on the rudder wires there. That's how they steer the boat. Already the blades are coming close to clashing, and then they move apart.
On the legs.
They're very close together. They're always difficult on the corners. That's where the Coxes are juggling for threat. Very close together. Oars overlapping.
Overlapping, and a couple of little clashes there, and then they drift apart again. Matthew Pinsent will be working hard, and really now is where this first bend starts to kick in for Cambridge. They've done well to keep that lead of Oxford's just at that quarter of a length. Matthew Pinsent again working hard.
Very close together, and you can't see from our angle there, but Oxford were warned, and they've had to move out there.
Ready, go!
Well, Matthew Pinsent wanted a quiet race. He's certainly been involved already. No crew giving ground here. There is the big beast, the powerful Malcolm Howard in the stroke seat for Oxford, and together they creep again.
Still again, that's Henry Fieldman, who knows this course very well, the Cambridge Cox. He's trying to harass the Oxford Cox a little bit, trying to push him off the best of the stream, and he's doing a very good job there on the inside of the corner. But now they've got round the corner, they're straight for those two tall buildings in the distance there, and now they're on this very important 2.5 minutes straight before the big bend in favour of Oxford. But Cambridge held very well there after Oxford's very fast start.
They are remaining at just that quarter of length advantage to Oxford. But of course Oxford have the big Surrey bend to come in the middle of the race. As they pass the mile marker, and the flag will drop past the monument to Steve Fairbairn, former Cambridge oarsman and influential coach in the latter stages of the 19th century. Not sure it's going to be a record-breaking time. The tide is not quite strong enough, or rather more water coming down off the land, but still Oxford holding it, perhaps moving out a little bit further as well now.
Yes, Oxford have moved as they come up to the first mile at the milepost there. Oxford at 35 strokes a minute, Cambridge just over 35 strokes a minute, trying to prevent Oxford from getting any advantage here, because the more that Oxford can get an advantage here, the harder it's going to be for Cambridge when they come to the big Surrey bend.
Finish! Finish! 6 seats up.
Oxford are pretty composed there. They've got into a nice rhythm there at 35 strokes a minute.
Out to the front end.
Keeping the blades very well buried, driving their legs down. Carl Hudspeth, that's his third boat race. Ludis at 7 there, who stroked the British age. And now they've got about 3/4 of a length there. Cambridge settling into a rhythm.
getting ready for Ratchet 1.
Well, they're hanging on in there at the moment, Cambridge, and they really have to do just that, because this race could get away from the very, very powerful Oxford 8. And again, that big Surrey bend is to come from there. They cannot let them get too far ahead, because their advantage, the Middlesex bend, the better part of it, comes in the latter stages of the race.
6.
Cambridge doing very well here, holding Oxford's push. This is an important part of the race. Cambridge have got to try and keep as much contact as they can as they approach the big bend. But now Oxford are making a push. They've gone up to 36 strokes a minute, and they're trying to make a big push to break away from Cambridge, to give Cambridge a lot of work to do for the next middle part of the race.
Well, they're coming up to 2,000 metres. This is where a normal championship course would end, but at this stage we still have 4,800 metres or so to go. It is a brutal test of your rowing ability, the championship course. And one thing to make clear as well is that if Oxford got clear water ahead, they could then choose whichever line they wanted.
Absolutely. Well, they wouldn't really want to move off the line around this big bend. They'll stay on the inside of their line. That'll be fine. But do remember that in 2,000 metres, you're quite right, 2,000 metres, this is where an Olympic course would finish. 2,000 metres. Oxford and Cambridge have got to add on 2 more 2,000-metre races on top of that.
They come up to a couple of great landmarks. The former Harrods Furniture Depository, now some very nice flats, and in the distance you can see there Hammersmith Bridge. And that is where the Surrey bend will start to just ease round towards the south-southwest, and Oxford will really start to have the advantage.
Oxford at 34 strokes a minute, Cambridge at 35 strokes a minute, and you can see the Cambridge cox, Henry Fieldman, he's trying to tuck in a little bit there to try and avoid the puddles coming down from Oxford, but to eliminate the disadvantage of the outside of that corner.
There is the crowd draped like bunting along Hammersmith Bridge, and here the noise grows from above and from the sides, and we go down to the river in Wayne Pommen.
Well, Cambridge just put on a huge push. They saw the danger. They realized that Oxford were getting close to being able to break clear, and they just threw everything in there for a 20-stroke push. And I think they managed to neutralize Oxford a bit, and they have no choice. Oxford has the advantage of this curve now for at least another 6 or 7 minutes. Cambridge has to hang on to have the advantage of the final bend of the race.
Oxford will be looking ahead now. They'll be seeing that this is an advantage for them around the inside of this corner, but they will know that about 5 minutes on from here, the big turn, the big advantage is going to turn to Cambridge's favour for the last part of the last 7 minutes of the race. So Cambridge doing a very good job here, holding on to Oxford.
They have put in a push, and that bow of the Cambridge boat is just creeping up there, but they really have to put in some grim work now. And from the noise alongside Hammersmith Bridge, it'll start to open up a little bit, and all the while the Thames is meandering round towards the south, and it's Oxford's advantage at the moment as the Coxes continue to drive them on.
Henry Fieldman, the Cambridge cox, doing a very, very good job there to try and minimise the disadvantage of being on the outside of this big corner. But you can see that he's just trying to avoid the puddles coming down from the Oxford bow side. But Oxford trying to make a move, trying to break clear. If they can break clear here, they'll be able to move in front of Cambridge and get the advantage of the finishing bend.
Roughly 20% of boats that are behind at Hammersmith Bridge go on to lose, so they're up against it here, Cambridge, and Oxford are putting in a push.
It's still about about 3/4 of a length there. Oxford very, very much trying to break clear, trying to move clear. They're on 36 strokes a minute. But the stern pair here, Malcolm Howard, Stanley Lewis, trying to push on, trying to lead Oxford at halfway. They're just coming up now to halfway as the big bend here comes to an end, and they move now on to the Chiswick 8 straight here. They've got about 1.5 minutes of a straight along this Chiswick 8.
Let's listen in once again to the Coxes. They are the men who are urging on the oarsmen in these two boats, and Cambridge hanging on.
Absorb the efficiency here. Loose. Pressure it on. Finishes high. That's it. Ready, go. That's it. Finish. Nice and long. Finish. Nice and long. Finish. That's the Zone 6. Flash move. Ready. Stuff. Go. Press together.
Well, they're just about hanging on in there, Cambridge. Again, this is where it opens up, coming down Chiswick Reach, and the buildings and the crowds disappear, and it becomes rather cheerless, grueling work. But this is hard effort being put in by Cambridge to remain in touch.
And they're looking very composed, Cambridge. They've got a very easy stroke there. They don't look too ruffled. They know now that they've held on around the outside of that corner. That's a big plus psychologically for them. And you can see here they're sitting on either side of the centre stream. The wind is now just behind them, pushing them along, but they're coming up. You can see this big bend coming up ahead of them.
Well, this is where things took a turn for the bizarre last year. It's all clean and fair and hard racing at the moment, past Chiswick Steps. They come, and it remains there, though the boats are still overlapping slightly. Do Cambridge have a way back in here, Wayne Pommon?
They do. This is Oxford's last chance to break away, this last bend. If Oxford cannot get clear on this bend, the psychology of the race is going to change completely, because the next corner is Cambridge's. And Cambridge know that if they hang on for 2 or 3 more minutes, they're going to be in a very nice position. This is the climax of the race.
Very key point here, and a very key point. They're coming up to the Chiswick Step point. It's the last little bit of an advantage of bend in Oxford's favour, but there's Chiswick Steps. It's 7 minutes to go to the end of the race, and most of that is a 3/4 of a length advantage to Cambridge around the big bend at the end there, the big Barnes bend.
Press and set.
Together is the cry. It's all about rhythm and togetherness. That will always beat brute force, and Oxford again seem to be just edging a little bit further clear.
Cambridge trying now. What they've got to do, Cambridge, is to stop Oxford getting enough clearance, and they're doing it. They are moving very well indeed. Oxford stuck here at 2/3 of a length, and Cambridge are beginning to make some movement now. They're beginning to move back, and with the advantage of their corner approaching, they're in a very good position.
Well, this could be a very close race indeed. Still, the Coxies do their chatty work, and so at times rather unsavoury language chatty work from the Coxies, so apologies for that. And Oxford have opened a little bit of clear water there, so it's just more than a length at the moment, and they're starting to push themselves, the men in the dark blue boat.
Cambridge, remember, Cambridge will have had to work very very hard on the outside of that Surrey bend to stay in the race there, and so they'll be feeling very unhappy in the legs. They'll have a lot of lactate in the legs, and it's very important now for Oxford. If they want to make the most of this last bit of their bend, they've got to push, and they have now moved across a little bit, and they're throwing their puddles down onto the Cambridge hull, and that's making life very uncomfortable for Cambridge.
Send it together. Send it together. That's it, Stan. That's it, Carl.
Instructions to Constantine Lauludis from the small figure of Oscar Zarilla. He barks away, and the giant Canadian stroke Malcolm Howard silently, powerfully beats out the rhythm. Then Lauludis behind him, and Hudspeth and Bennett. Sam O'Connor, Alex Davidson, Jordy McLeod, Patrick Close, all as one, and Cambridge here trying to remain in touch. But now Oxford, with that clear water, they can crucially cut in front and take the final bend.
That was imperceptible. That last minute and a bit, Oxford moved really quite well. They made a big push, and they took about 3/4 of a length. That was a huge move for Oxford. They've been able to move in front of Cambridge, and that eliminates the disadvantage of being on the outside of that corner. So Oxford now in a dominant position here, and Cambridge beginning to feel this is really beginning to slip away.
As they pass the bandstand, you look down from above, they look so serene, giant 8-legged creatures skating up the river, but down below it's hard to convey the pain these men are in now, having rowed for so long. And even harder, I suppose, for Cambridge, because they've lost eye line out to the corner of their eye. They can't see anything now of the Cambridge boat, of the Oxford boat.
Well, now it's very important to see how the Coxes steer their course, because with so much land water coming down, the river is slowing down, and there's much less water coming down. So you'll find that the crews will start to hug the Middlesex side in this last 4-minute run-in, because they've got about 4 minutes to go, with Barnes Bridge the 3-minute to go mark.
Well, Cambridge were hanging on, but Oxford are beginning to open that gap, and very, very seldom do boats that are behind at Barnesbridge come from behind to win. They have done it in the past, but only when there were fractions between the two crews, and this is a lead which will be nigh on impossible for Cambridge to pull back now in front of the massive crowds who line the banks at Barnes and the White Hart pub there at Mortlake.
Oxford have gone quite wide there. They went very wide around that corner, and that would have put them on the outside more than they needed to. But he's corrected, and Oxford now rowing very well. They've got a lovely rhythm there. They're striding out. They've got nearly 2 lengths lead, but Cambridge still fighting back and doing very well indeed here. They're closing the gap that little bit.
3 minutes is the cry, just one final 3-minute push. It's 6 months of training. It's up very early in the morning, brutally cold mornings and days out on the river training over the winter here. It's been hard work, but the flags wave, and they wave above all for Oxford, because those in the know that this is going to be very, very difficult for Cambridge to get this back. It's simply not done in the boat race. Oxford, it seems, are heading for victory.
It looks like it, but you can see, you look at the Oxford Cox, he's quite wide still. You'd expect him to be a bit tighter on this corner, just to close the door on Cambridge, but he's staying quite wide. The Cambridge Cox, Henry Fieldman, very wise, canny Cox there, just staying a bit close there on the inside.
At our best.
And again, we look down from above as they come round that final bend, and Cambridge there still desperately trying to close the gap. This is where they sit in the river towards the big brewery on the left-hand side there, and somewhere around the corner is Chiswick Bridge, the finish line just before that. But Oxford with that clear water, that lead at the moment, and Cambridge will try, and they will try to chew into that lead. But it is grim work for them now. Chiswick Bridge starts to appear, and the finish line before that. But Malcolm Howard and Constantine Lauludis, Olympians. Howard, a man who's won a gold medal and a silver medal at the Olympics. Lauludis, a bronze medalist. That is a mighty engine propelling Oxford along.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's interesting how wide the Oxford Cox is staying there as they come round this last minute and a half to go. Cambridge are not going to be able to close that gap, but they have done very well. They fought extremely well to hold on to this very strong Oxford crew. 2 really exceptional crews.
Well, Cambridge are trying to the very end to close the margin of defeat. I suppose doesn't matter in the long run, but they will want to get as close as they can. They will not give up to the very last. The angle there was perhaps slightly foreshortening the distance. But Oxford, after all the events of last year, they felt cheated, they felt aggrieved, and they wanted to make amends this year, and I think they're going to. Oxford won the women's boat race last weekend, as they did the men's and women's lightweight races. ISIS won the reserve race a couple of hours ago, and now the blue boat of Oxford is going to complete this whitewash.
But what a great battle we've seen. What a fantastic battle we've seen as they come up to the line now.
And across the line they come. It is the dark blues in front. Oxford are the winners of the 159th boat race. Cambridge that close, but it might as well be a mile behind, because the splashes and the celebrations belong